My name is Kosisochikwu Nnebe. I'm a Nigerian Canadian visual artist. I was born in Nigeria. I'm a conceptual artist. My art practice is really just thinking about Blackness in a very expansive way as someone who is West African and became in a lot of ways Black upon arriving in Canada, and spent a lot of my childhood and adolescence and early adulthood trying to understand what it means to be Black. And so looking at the work of post-colonial writers such as Frantz Fanon as a way of helping me understand this process of racialization. And since then, I've been trying to connect that also with my West African origins and looking at histories of colonialism and slavery in a way that connect various geographies. My interest in post-colonial feminism, it really comes from having to learn a lot of these theories and about a lot of these writers through my friends and by myself. My background is not in the arts, nor is it in cultural studies. My background is in economics. And so when I was doing my undergrad, I had a lot of friends who were studying cultural studies and were introducing me to the works of people like Bell Hooks and Frantz Fanon. And I would go off and read about those people, have conversations with my friends, and then try and understand it in a way that felt digestible to me. And I think art came in that way because it was always a way for me to understand and live things. And so I would read Fanon, and there would be things that really stuck to me about how he describes this process of racialization. And he described it in a very visceral way. And all of a sudden, I would have this same thing with Bell Hooks. She's one of the leaders, or was one of the leaders, in terms of Black feminist thinking, and came up with this interpretation of standpoint theory, which is a feminist theory, but she really focused on Black women within her interpretation of it, and was really explaining the way in which Black women on the margins of society have a very different understanding of the world that produces a distinct form of knowledge that's actually incredibly valuable. And so what she's often advocating is that we think about that knowledge that's produced in the margins, and that we find ways of valuing it, of recognizing that the margins are a space of resistance that people choose to be in. And so one example of a work that I created is this work that has two images, two portraits, that can only be seen if you move to the margins of the piece. And so you literally have to shift your body to the sideline in order to see it, because if you stand in front of the work, all you see is a reflection of yourself because there's a mirror, right? And so the images require that you move yourself to the margins, because from a position of the center, which is often associated with power and the dominant culture, all you have is a reflection of that dominant culture, because so much of what we understand of Blackness is projections from the white gaze and from the dominant culture. And so those are ways that I was always trying to visualize what I was learning as a way of fully embodying it. So I'd love to share more about the process of printing on banana leaves. It's an alternative photographic process called chlorophyll printing. And essentially what it is working with the sun and the process of photosynthesis to create an image on a leaf without the use of chemicals. And so it's very kind of environmental in a lot of ways, because it literally is just a leaf, a transparency, and the sun, and all of a sudden you have a printed image. And so I'm really interested in using the kind of materiality that brings up, in terms of there's a kind of collaboration between like me as a human and these natural elements, being a leaf and the sun, to create a print which is ephemeral. So the print that you create on the leaf is going to fade away over time. And so it speaks in a lot of ways to the human trace and impact on nature, right? And so I'm interested in this image that fades over time, that speaks to a decentering of the human as we speak of nature, because our trace on the land will eventually fade away, right? If we decenter ourselves and realize that the impacts that we're having on our environment are going to hurt us, right? The environment will find a way of recalibrating, but will be gone, right? And so there's ways in which even just that process itself speaks to a lot of themes around the Anthropocene, around climate change, around our relationship to land. And so I'm going to be printing images on these leaves. I'm thinking it's images that connect different regions and timelines, because you have banana plantations in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, in South America, on the African continent, in Southeast Asia, so they're everywhere. But the kind of economies around banana production and kind of getting it to our food stalls and on our tables, it's one that has always involved a certain kind of exploitation, right? It was associated with the slave trade, but also associated with modern day slavery. And so I'm really interested in using the banana and the images I print on the banana to speak to extractive forms of, resource extraction and extractive capitalism in a way, and really getting us to understand the ways in which it manifests differently, but affects a broad range of people. I'm excited about how my work is going to evolve from this residency. I'm going to be working with an architect to develop a community pantry, to continue sharing that knowledge of how we can find ways of living within these anti-Black conditions, which often manifest as food insecurity. And so the work is really about life. It's about Black life, it's about Black aliveness.